Sounds like the start of a good joke. A builder, an appliance maker, a social media developer, and a nutritionist walk into a bar. Well, a kitchen anyway. Well, as you heard in the last panel, prevention is a huge part of the healthcare equation, and much of that comes through healthy eating, and it's actually possible to bring these diverse worlds together. Construction, food science, groceries, and housewares. I'm going to ask everyone to bring their conversations down. Shh. Thanks. Sorry. I'll go back to that. It's actually possible now to bring all of these worlds together, the diverse worlds of construction, food science, groceries, and housewares together to create healthier people and even healthier homes. It's like the Jetsons meets Julia Child. I can't wait to hear more. Now, let me introduce our moderator for this panel, who worked very closely with me in bringing together this truly progressive and innovative topic to us today. Andy Donner is director of Physic Ventures, a San Francisco-based venture capital firm which invests in consumer health and sustainable living companies. At Physic Ventures, Andy focuses on investments in the connected health sector, which includes digital media, health monitoring, innovative care delivery, wellness, and condition management programs. Andy, it's all yours.
Thank you, Jill. Can you guys hear me? Is it mic'd up? No. Is that better? Perfect. Well, thank you. It really is a pleasure to be here on stage here at CES, and I want to applaud Jill for putting on this terrific event and her staff, and in particular, having the courage to put on something as new as what we're going to talk about here relative to healthy eating. Woo, that's not my model. Good stuff. All right. Sorry. No worries. No, that was good, though. I like that. Okay. Perfect, there you have. This past Sunday in the New York Times, there was a fascinating and equally disturbing article on the rise of bariatric surgery in the United States and in other countries. Some of you probably read this article, which went on to report how some 4,000 surgeries were done last year on children as young as 14 years old in this country to staple their stomach, insert lap bands at a cost of $25,000 a pop. In many cases, what you and I are paying for with our tax dollars. And in reading that article, which is rather shocking, I was left with a few questions. How did it come to this? Is this the direction of our healthcare system? And quite frankly, what can all of us do to change that course? Well, this entire Digital Health Summit in many ways is asking that same question, and a lot of us are dedicating our careers to that question. This panel, in an odd way, is also going to be addressing that question, but from a completely different perspective. We're going to be looking as far away from the OR as you possibly can imagine, and what we're going to focusing on is in your home and specifically in your kitchen. I'm Andy Donner. I'm a director with Physic Ventures. As Jill mentioned, we're a San Francisco-based venture capital firm, and what we do is we invest in keeping people healthy. So we're trying to keep people out of the hospital by focusing on prevention and wellness. And what we do is we provide capital and support to terrific entrepreneurs like Dave, like Amy before this, and beyond, to develop innovations which improve the health of individuals, families, communities, and the planet. Now, at the core of what we focus on at Physic Ventures is food, healthy eating, and nutrition. Now, just consider for a moment that the American Dietetic Association reports that meals at home are associated with 1/3 less fat, 1/3 less calories, and 1/3 less sodium relative to restaurant meals and takeout. Meals, we believe, are the connection to our personal health. We believe that meals are the connection to each other around the dinner table. And we believe that meals are a connection to the land through agriculture and nutrition. Fundamentally, we believe at Physic that through healthy eating and food, a cascade of behaviors come, so start there. And arguably, no behavior is more important than the dinner table and cooking. Consider for a second that Columbia University launched a study that indicated that meals at home are associated with significantly better grades for kids, reduced cigarette use, reduced alcohol use, reduced drug use. Fundamentally, healthy meals and eating at home are healthy for your physical health, your family health, social health, emotional health. But it's not happening, right? So how many of us cook on a regular basis at home, and to what extent? What we see right now in America is that relative to 20 years ago, 1/3 less meals are being cooked and eating around the dinner table. And why is this happening? Well, we kind of all know the answer to that. We're working longer. There's 2 incomes in the house. Kids are overscheduled, but yet we know we want to make this happen. So the question I ask ourselves is, how can digital technology bring this family back into the kitchen? Well, I call your attention to a really interesting observation about the house and relative to digital media. The kitchen is arguably the most social part of the house. Think about the last cocktail party you were at. But yet, it's the one room in the house that hasn't been radically disrupted by digital media and consumer electronics. Look around the house. You have Zappos in the closet. You have Netflix in the living room. You have Zipcar in the garage, Pandora streaming throughout. But what about the kitchen? It's where we spend our time. It's the most important. It's the social, but it's not happening. So what is the large-scale commercial opportunity that's here where $1 billion in value can be created and we can improve the health of people? Well, in many ways, that's what the panel is going to be talking about today. And we're going to be talking about this from various perspectives. We're going to talk about it from the perspective of health, the rise of obesity, but increased awareness. We're going to be talking about it for economics, the fact that people are trying to save money in a recession. They're clipping coupons. They're trying to reduce waste. They want their dollars to go further. We're going to be talking about actual behaviors. So what's going on? People are cooking less time, but interestingly, more meals are being cooked. Well, how do you reconcile that? Well, the answer in many ways, sadly, is the microwave. What we're seeing right now is the average meal in the US is being cooked in under 18 minutes. It's defrosting, it's microwaving. How do we address that? People are in the kitchen, they want to save money, but how do we cook healthier? And then lastly, because here we are at CES, is the technologies. What we're seeing is companies like David's at Yummly and large-scale media companies are helping with the shopping and meal preparation through digital media. We're seeing the tablet is arguably the new appliance of the kitchen. Forrester reports that about 40% of tablets right now are used for cooking. And then what about the old school appliances, the stoves, the refrigerators? We have Doug on the panel is going to be talking about Whirlpool, what they're doing in integrating digital innovation into the appliances themselves. So, all right, this is going to get going in 1 second. So to give you a taste, before we hand it over to the panelists, a taste for what some of this innovation's out there, I selected a 1-minute clip from a Tesco pilot that's happening in South Korea. Some of you may have seen this. This is really, really cool. But beyond being cool, the reason I selected it is because it demonstrates how technology, how the mobile phone can address some of the challenges of cooking, and in this case, specifically, convenience and lack of time. Besides being just really cool, is addressing a fundamental behavior challenge of cooking. We don't have time. We're busy, we're going about our life, but yet we want healthy food to make it into the kitchen. So Tesco launched that program, and they're showing incredible results in South Korea. But that's just one example. What we're going to talk about today on this panel with a very carefully selected group of panelists that represent the ecosystem is we're going to be talking about technologies across what I call the 4 Ps of the cooking ecosystem. And we're going to be talking about we're going to talk about meal planning, food procurement, meal preparation, and participation around the dinner table. So what we have are 3 outstanding panelists that represent this ecosystem. First up is going to be Dave Feller, CEO of Yummly, an innovative Bay Area startup. Dave previously was with eBay, stumbled upon Half.com, a career in digital media who is now marrying his passion for digital media with cooking. After Dave is going to be Andy Porteous from Unilever, a career veteran in the food, ingredient, and packaged good industry, who's going to be talking to us about what's going on relative to the actual food we're cooking with from his experience across the globe. And last up is going to be Doug Beaudet, who is the Global Director of Experience Design at Whirlpool, previously with Kodak, who's going to be talking about what's happening relative to the appliances we're cooking with, how they're becoming smart and digital and using information across. One of the key themes that we're going to get to during the Q&A after this is not just what's going on with each of these companies, but how they're partnering with each other and how this ecosystem is going to all come together in the kitchen. So without further ado, I want to thank the panelists. I'm going to hand it over to Dave to tell us about what he's doing at Yummly.
Thank you, Andy. Is this working? Yeah, it sounds like it is. So I'm going to spend a few minutes just talking about the digital landscape for food and shamelessly self-promoting Yummly a little bit. But really what I'm going to cover is food is really cooking online. There's no end-to-end digital kitchen platform. That's kind of what Andy alluded to before. It's a complex problem. It's been solved in other categories. And Yummly's at the forefront of creating this digital kitchen platform. And once you do this, the applications for what you've created are actually, there are numerous applications, and they're really exciting. So it's a very complicated graph. The only thing you really need to take out of this is that food is growing dramatically. This is from Google Insights for Search. It compares food to travel, real estate, and shopping. And the orange is food. And so this is general web search interest by category. So what you see here is you see that food over the last, I think this is from 2004 on, is really taking off online. In fact, Google says that 1% of searches are recipe related, which is an incredibly high number if you just imagine everything that people could be searching for. And meal preparation is one of the fastest growing online, meal planning is one of the fastest growing online activities. Andy alluded to this a little bit, but eating's a daily activity, but there's no single destination for people to go to for a consumer platform for food. If you want to listen to music, a lot of people go to Pandora. You want to buy something online, a lot of people go to Amazon, know what's going on with your friends. You go to Facebook, but when you want to eat, most people just go to Google. Or when you want to cook, most people go to Google. There's really no end-to-end digital kitchen platform, and that's really the opportunity that Yummly's going after. So what we've started is, we've started by aggregating recipes and understanding them online, and helping people have access to this information. And really, you know, on the left-hand side, that's where we started, on the finding side. But that's not the end of it. What we see is, we see this continuum of being able to make sure you're finding the right things to cook, you're organizing, you're being able to easily and seamlessly bring that into a shopping cart, and then being able to cook from it in your kitchen. And underneath all of this is the technology that Yummly's built, which is the ability to scour the web and look for recipes, find them, and essentially deconstruct them. So understand the ingredients, the nutrition. Is it applicable for certain diets? Is it applicable for certain allergies? But really unlocking all of that information and making it easy for people to navigate so they can achieve their health goals that they're looking to. So really how we've done this is we've created what we call as an ontology for food, which is, think about it as a huge hierarchy of food that, you know, apples are a type of fruit. But every time that we see ingredients, then we know how they're related to other ingredients, and we can make these, we can help people sift through the information a lot faster. So it's a hierarchy of over 30,000 ingredients, cuisines, dishes, techniques, and more. We have a number of algorithms that are basically used in order to find recipes, in order to deconstruct them and understand their taste profile, to help people really connect with that information. Have we been successful? So far, yes. We like to say we're one of the vertical startup leaders with over 4 million monthly unique visitors. We've done that in being live in only 18 months. So we really feel like we've hit a sweet spot of consumer demand where people are really just looking for better ways to access this information. Somebody asked me once, oh, that's well great, you know, you guys seem like you're doing well. How does that compare to these other big names that we know about, you know, the Yelps, the Pandoras? And that's the reason I put together this chart for that person, which basically says after a year, we were well ahead of those other companies. And we think this is just indicative of what we're building and the consumer need and the consumer demand for this type of information. So Yummly is think of Yummly as a Google for recipes right now, but it's really evolving to be much more than that. Everything on the left-hand side is algorithmically determined. So we have sliders for taste, for nutrition. We have checkboxes for diets and allergies. All of that is done with technology. So we're essentially finding this stuff on the web, making sense of it, and trying to make it easier for people to navigate when they are looking for things to cook. And once you do this, there's a ton of cool things that you can start doing. Obviously, you can start helping consumers make intelligent decisions about what they want to eat, but you can start connecting the platform to sites, devices, appliances, connecting it to health partners, incorporating more data elements into the platform. So what's the weather outside, and what does my family normally like to eat when it's just starting to snow outside? What can we learn from the data exhaust? So how people are how people are looking for food, and once you structure all of that information and people are using it, what can you learn and what does that mean for how you can understand and analyze food? And eventually you can say we can take this concept or this philosophy and apply it to things like restaurant menus and understand, if we understand that chicken parmesan normally has this type of profile and we see that on a menu, we can make certain assumptions about that and help people connect as they're starting to go out and eat. But that's basically a transition to Andy from Unilever.
Thanks. Middle button?
Right button.
Right.
So, I'm not sure. Am I on? I'm not sure how many people in this room, this being a mostly American audience, know of Unilever, but you may know us from our brands. We're one of the largest CPG companies in the world, serving roughly 2 billion people a day. Food is about 40% of our business, and about half of our business is in the developing and emerging markets, and that's the part of our business which is growing fastest, because I think the link between eating, nutrition, and the digital space and the kitchen is not solely an issue for the developed world. Our strategy is called the Unilever Sustainable Living Plan, where we endeavoring to grow our business, to double our business while dramatically reducing our environmental impacts. And our definition of environmental impact includes the social impact and the home and how people interact with each other and their behaviors, particularly around hygiene and around nutrition, is a fundamental piece of our definition of a sustainable environment. We have 3 big goals as a business. You can read them in front of you. The one I want to talk about today, because it's most pertinent to this matter, is that our first goal is to help 1 billion people improve their health and well-being. This is the strategy. It's published strategy. In here, you can find that for nutrition, we set very finite, very clear goals over a time-bound period to do this. And I want to just show you something about what we've learned, and rather than just selling product, about some of the solutions and services that we're bringing to bear in this space. So my first point is connectivity is true everywhere, whether you're sitting in a nice home somewhere in Nevada or you're sitting out in the countryside of India. Connectivity is in every kitchen now. So people are using devices to bring them closer to information that helps them in dealing with the issues they need to deal with in the kitchen every day. But I think, having worked in the food space across a whole range of different brands, across virtually all of the continents on the planet, the questions that people have are pretty much the same questions. And I don't think that the fact that we're in a digitally enabled world has changed the questions. The basic questions are, so what is healthy? What can I do? How should I behave in order to get more stuff which is healthy? But actually, before I get around to answering those questions, what am I actually going to cook for dinner tonight? What is it that I'm going to feed my family? Do I know how to do it? Can I afford it? Do I have the ingredients? And at the end of it, will it be as healthy as I want it to be? This is all about consumer behavior, and consumer behavior takes the time to change. And I think one of my key messages would be that everything that we do in the digital space, in the interconnected space, is about trying to help people in the behaviors that they've got get to a better place. Just want to show you a snapshot of some of our services. You may or may not have seen these. This is a tool that's called the Heart Age tool. And it's a very simple user interface that takes a lot of data over a number of years from studies like the Framingham study, and says, let's demonstrate that by moving a couple of key variable risk factors, that you can directionally reduce the age of your heart. So one of the things that is quite difficult for people, of course, is to understand the reality of their risk factors for any illness. And in heart disease, it's no different. So you know that if your real age is 40 and your heart age is 52, there's something that you need to do. And by playing with those sliders, you can see the impact of smoking, of cholesterol, of blood pressure, etc. So that's a tool that we distribute across all of our heart health brand sites, and we also provide it free to various doctors' organizations, health charities, etc., for their use. A second tool that we are developing, and this is in beta at the moment in the UK, is something called Smart Swaps. And Smart Swaps basically says, okay, what do you shop at the moment? This relies on people having some form of electronic shopping, which is not huge in foods in the US, but in Western Europe, and you saw in Korea, for example, it's very big. You see what they buy. You suggest things that they could buy which would help them reduce the total fat, the total energy, saturated fat, sodium, sugar. And you provide options. Some people can ignore the options or they can choose to pick the options. Once you pick the options, so there's an example of things that they bought last time. Here's a suggestion that says, look, if you buy these sausages rather than those sausages, you can see this is got a better nutritional mix. If you do that across a whole basket of goods, you can start to make a substantial impact with very little effort. And I think that's important because it's still answering those basic questions. What am I going to eat tonight? How can I tell it's healthy? And then that gets delivered into your shopping basket and you buy. Another example, which perhaps builds on some of the stuff that Dave's saying, is that at the end, recipes make a difference. There are just under 5 billion searches in the English language alone for recipe information on Google. That's more than the total number of searches on nutrition, slimming, and fitness combined. So it's quite a big number. And in Latin America, Unilever has a service called Recipedia, which is the biggest recipe service in Latin America. And from that, we start to learn what people are interested in. So we hear the data, just as Dave was saying, and you can start to then suggest recipes that would meet their needs as well. So that's one comment. We have a similar service in South Africa, and I just want to draw 2 comments from that. One of the most used parts of that service is a service which is about helping you do it on a budget. Because I think we just need to come back to the reality of most people's lives. Most people don't have lots of money to pick sort of hand-selected organic food, or to have the foods made for them with as if everything were available. Most people are on a budget, and particularly with the global economy in the States at the moment, people are looking for not just good quality food and good healthy food, but food that they can afford. And the second thing that I would highlight from our experience in South Africa is meal planning. So back to basics. If you can help people not just think about what I'm going to cook today, but I'm going to cook across a whole week. If you can do that within the budget that they've got, within the cookery skills that they already have, knowing the kind of likes and dislikes they have, you can make simple tools to help people answer those basic questions. So I would leave it at this saying, so we're focused in Unilever against delivering solutions and services beyond the products that we sell across this broad definition of sustainability, which includes nutrition. The basic questions that homemakers have are the basic questions. So if we choose to ignore those in our hope that people will magically change their behavior, I think we're kidding ourselves. And last but not least, it's about using the digital technology and the evolving digital technology to simplify and to humanize the solutions. And by that way, you will get good behavior change and positively improve the diets that people are eating. And now to you, Doug.
Very nice. And a great segue, because it really is about humanizing the solutions. I'd like to share with you a design exploration that Whirlpool recently completed for our 100th anniversary, and share, how we see this fitting into the connected kitchen. It's a wonderful topic because at its core, the kitchen is where we've gathered, for millennia to share and come together. We brought together leading designers, technologists, chefs, culinary experts together. We asked them to think out for the next 5 to 10 years, what are the big trends, what are the big meta trends happening out there, and could they distill it down to a couple of important salient themes that we should be addressing. And these are the 3, and naturality really speaks to the importance of keeping it authentic and real when we talk about the ingredients that we're putting into our meals, when we think about our cultures. And around the world, we have different cultures in how we approach food, and we need to be respectful of this. If anything, as of late, as Andy pointed out, we're drifting away from those home values of preparing a meal, whether it's for ourselves or a family or friends, and how do we bring that back in? And one way we do that is through creativity. So with these traditional mixes and ingredients that we've used for years, how do we create new experiences where people can experience food, but also experience time together and connect with one another? And finally, functionality. We make appliances. At the end of the day, it has to be functional. It has to deliver value to you. But, is there a connectivity solution that goes beyond putting a Wi-Fi module on the back of a, stainless steel monolith? We think so. So we're looking out past today and thinking about what is an enriched user experience where we can help deliver better nutrition to people, but also deliver better experiences around the dinner table. So we have two concepts, and I've got videos to show you. I just want to introduce each concept to just make it a little bit easier to understand because they're free playing, they're not narrated. Each one lasts a couple minutes. So we have two concepts. The first one's fireplace, and it's a very different kind of connectivity. How do we use our appliances and intelligent systems to help bring back connectivity at various stages through the day? So whether it's at breakfast, dinner, a cocktail party later on, how can we use the ancient ritual of the fireplace to bring people together to celebrate life and food? And the other approach is Fresh Connect, which is really an ecosystem. It's a cooperative approach to eating healthy, right? Where we're combining online ordering of food and procurement of food, as Dave described earlier, finding things that you want, and also combining it with the delivery aspect of having it cooperatively delivered to your home in a way that respects your daily activities, right? And then finally, storage units that are optimized for preservation as well as minimizing food waste. So maybe not everything needs to belong in a big refrigerator, but you could have specialty cooling systems that would do a much better job of preserving your foods till you're ready to use them, and you can add these accessories as your lifestyle changes. So fireplace is really about using modern technology to help enable rituals, right? And what you're going to see is a common central focal point. It's a piece of furniture merging the living room and the kitchen that really uses technologies that exist today. Maybe they're not ready for prime time. Maybe we're just hearing about them, but it's all based on real technology to have a central core place to enjoy your meals. Okay, so that's fireplace. So naturality, natural gestures, adaptability, being able to adapt the appliance throughout the day rather than just be a stationary monolith, right? And creativity, being able to create settings and moods with a combination of the appliance and its environment to create different experiences for the consumer. Our next concept is Fresh Connect. And Fresh Connect is really about an overall system that provides a healthier alternative for food delivery and preservation. It includes a set of accessories. So rather than just the one refrigerator, you could have refrigerating accessories optimized for the content. See, the more we know about the content of what you want to either preserve in the refrigerator or cook in the oven, the range, the microwave, the better job we can do. So this system really optimizes itself around what your contents are, try to preserve that nutritional benefit, keep that freshness in as long as possible so that you can enjoy it. It also, celebrates the natural things like having an herb garden at home, providing a convenient way to maintain it where you might not have the open atmosphere for having one outside. Okay, so as you saw, we envision a future where we can leverage all the technologies and the manufacturers and the services that are outside of this room here at CES to deliver a holistic experience that's seamless of technology, where the technology is embedded, it's natural, it's hidden, right? And you can just enable the experiences that we live every day with our different lifestyles. Thanks.
Fantastic. Well, thank you. I want to thank all the terrific presentations. I think there's some fantastic insights and great innovation that Andy, Doug, and Dave presented there. Turning to the Q&A with the time that's remaining, I want to open up with a few questions here. One, let's take a step back to look at the very title of this panel. And I think there's two key words I think we just take implicitly that we know what they mean, but I want to reflect on that, and that's healthy and connected. And let's start with healthy for a second. I think there were some nice examples there of the way these three companies are focusing on improving health. I think Andy in particular with hard age and smart swaps. We're focusing on that. I think Dave touched on it, and I think Doug touched on it a little bit, but I want to dig deeper because this is the Digital Health Summit. So my question here is focused maybe starting with Doug and Andy, with Dave and Doug, and we'll get to Andy after that. What does healthy mean to your organizations? If you can define that, what specific initiatives have you been working on that are focusing on the health of your users? And can you give an example of how your user base is working with those appliances with Yummly to improve their personal health?
So with Yummly, one of the things that we think about is healthy is going to mean different things to different people. And so really what we need to do is we need to create a way for everybody to be able to navigate data that meets these complex goals that differ from person to person to person. And that's really what healthy means to us, is making sense of the data so that we can make other people's lives easier. And I think we see this a lot on Yummly. We see a lot of people using, we have lots of different search features, and they're all used very frequently. But I think that you see diets and allergies and nutrition being ones that are used by a lot of people. It's hard to put anybody in one box and say this is what healthy is, because what might be healthy for me may not be healthy for Andy. But that's really at the core of the problem, and that's why it's a difficult problem to solve, which is it means so many different things to different people, and that's what we're trying to do, is make people's lives easier.
Yeah, so just to build on that, it means different things to different people because they have different needs. So we know some of our consumers who enjoy seafood want it to be as fresh as it can possibly be. And it may only be in the fridge for a couple of hours, and actually it might still be alive, right? So how do we keep it as fresh as it can be in terms of preparation? For other people, it's like they would love to have a head of lettuce that lasts a week, right? And again, it goes back to, we can help. The more we know about what your needs are, what your end goals are, we can tailor our preservation, or if it's in preparation, the same approach. And the needs are different both behaviorally as well as culturally. So we'll see different needs around the world.
Then I'll hop into the second question about connectivity. I think we've heard great perspectives on what connectivity means, which is across people, it's across time, it's our connection to our food, connected to prior generations. The question I want to get into right now is actually the connectivity across these partners, right? When I started looking at the space, what I was struck by is that there is no central player in the kitchen. In the living room, you have the TV set as the central part, and everything is kind of coming off of that. But in the kitchen, there isn't. And my hunch is that this is going to be an ecosystem or an integration solution. And so my question to all three of you is, how do you see this ecosystem evolving? How do you see the partnership opportunities for your organization relative to the ecosystem?
Well, I think that from my perspective, one of the most important things is that nobody tries to solve this problem themselves. I think that's where we've gotten into, there's probably a number of different examples where somebody goes in and tries to solve it completely themselves in a proprietary way and eliminates the ability for other people to talk to each other. So I think what we really need to do, and I think Doug alluded to this as well, which is as we're developing different technologies at different points along the line, make sure that these technologies can speak to each other, that it needs to be seamless, it needs to be open. The recipe or meal planning needs to be able to at some point understand what's in the refrigerator, and it's in all of our best interests to make sure that we're all working together on this. We may be tackling or solving different points along the way, but as we do that, we need to make sure that they can be connected when we're ready to do that.
So I think I would agree. I think the future looks like partnerships. Because different people have different sets of skills, but actually the shopper, the consumer, the homemaker doesn't really care. What they care about is simplifying the basic tasks that they have to get done. And if it isn't easier or quicker or cheaper, they're not going to be interested. So if the skills of a Unilever about understanding the kind of things that people would eat and therefore designing our products to deliver against a price, deliver against a certain set of skills, as a habit, and that's what we do well, and we try to create services around it that will help do that in a healthy way, as well as delivering healthy food. But getting the right kind of menus out there is a critical success factor. People need to know what to cook. And I think increasingly, maybe if that other chair had anybody in it, it would be a customer, so a Walmart or a Target or somebody, because making it seamless, and you saw that in Doug's film, making it seamless to go from, I understand the kind of things I might want to cook, I now need to buy those things, have them delivered to me in a seamless way. And one of the most interesting things I saw in terms of some work we've done in the UK on e-commerce is that people. So I've seen it in many countries. Once people find a recipe they like, that their families like, they know how to cook, it tends to stick. People don't have huge repertoires. Between 6 and 12 recipes. 12 recipes is a lot to have in a repertoire for a home cook in almost any country. But if you get something you like, and you don't have to think about shopping for it, and it's a healthy recipe, then you get the whole positive behavior loop reinforced. So I think that's where connectivity fits. All the appliances, the recipes, the foods that you're actually buying, the service provider in terms of the retailer, all being able to talk to each other.
And finally, it has to be convenient. It has to offer value. We all deal with the proverbial question of what's for dinner tonight, right? We deal with it as individuals, we deal with it as business people. And I think whatever we come up with, it has to be seamless. It has to play because we already have solutions. Right?
Yeah. So in preparation for this panel, I went on YouTube and typed in Kitchen of the Future. And what I found were videos going all the way back to the World's Fair back in the 40s and 50s, and then found Bill Gates's keynote here at CES in 2007, showing a George Jetson vision of the future, full with touchscreen countertops, telling you what to cook and walking you through it. Which leads me to the question, which I'll throw out, is there's a vision that we're showing up on stage, we're portraying, we're visualizing, right? But this is a vision that's been out there for a while. So my question to y'all is this still the future that's going to remain the future? Is this around the corner? Are we here with what we're talking about right now in the technologies? Where are we relative to this discussion, this technology, this integration?
I think we need to be realistic. I think the videos that you probably saw in the 50s and the 60s, we'll probably never see those kitchens. The ones that automatically make food for you, or we may not see that in our lifetime. But will we see things that are connected? Will we see the ability to meal plan based on people's taste preferences, have that immediately transferred to a shopping cart, go to the store, and be able to help you cook at home? Yeah, I think all of those things are right around the corner. And if we're realistic about it, I think that those types of things, we're going to see those in the next few years. And as I think I mentioned before, if I focus on my piece and try and do it really well, and Doug focuses his, and Andy focuses on his, and we make sure that these can talk to each other, then I think we'll get there faster. Which is, they focus on their areas of specialty, we focus on our areas of specialty, and we innovate, and then we connect.
So I have a few other questions, but Jill, I don't know if it's appropriate. Do we have time to open it up to the audience? We have 1 minute. All right. So I'll fill this by actually taking us far away from CS and far away from the kitchen of the affluent American consumer. And I think it's really easy for us here to focus on the people of affluence and means and the technophiles, but we lose sight of the majority of the planet's not like that. And this is a question I'll probably start with Andy, because he's got a real global perspective from the brands and Doug and beyond. Is what are we seeing of those of less means, of less technology relative to home cooking? What are the trends that we're seeing out there outside of technology relative to home cooking?
Outside of technology?
Yes.
I think that for most parts of the world, cooking is pretty traditional. The trends that you see in North America about people cooking less, they happen as urbanization happens, as women tend to work more, as time becomes more pressed. But the basic menus that people cook, in Indonesia, the food that's being cooked today is pretty much like the food that was being cooked 10 years ago and 20 years ago. So I think that we won't see massive changes in what people eat. We'll probably find the same changes about how to do it in less time and with less availability. I'm going to not answer your question by saying one thing, however, which is that I think that you don't have to be rich to have the ability to have digital connectivity in your kitchen. Because if you look at the way that mobile devices are growing from simple, non-smartphones to smartphones in developing and emerging markets, what we see will be the best that gets developed in places like the States and the UK. It will leap generations, and the things that will really work in terms of meal planning, in terms of recipe suggestions, in terms of e-commerce, in terms of hints and tips to do what I need to do in the time I've got, it'll be on a handset.
Fantastic. Well, the future is here, is the takeaway. I'm glad we answered it in that way, because I think the easy answer is like, oh no, it's not technology, it's always in the distant future, but I actually think it's here. And I think the tablet and the mobile is the key, whether you're in the store or you're in the kitchen, and this integration's coming together. So I want to thank Doug, Andy, Dave for a fantastic panel, and Jill for welcoming us.
Thank you.